Well, good evening. Welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course, with me tonight is the other awesome bear in the house, Techy Joe. How are you, darlings?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. How are you this evening?
Doing all right. Been a
Excellent.
real interesting week. We've been really a little bit all over the place.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
hmm
Like, where do you even want to start?
Oh, I don't know. Let's start at the plague being at the White House.
Hey, we'll go with that one. All right. So after Trump's valet, who delivers his meals that he supposedly has no contact with, test positive for COVID-19. We now have Katie Miller, wife of Stephen Miller, famous for the words womp womp, in response to a lovely question that was a very shit answer to. Unfortunately, at the moment, I can't remember which question that was. Somehow, I feel like it had something to do with healthcare.
Yep, probably
But,
most likely.
oh, it's, yeah. But actually, let me look that up real quick. I want to see. Oh, oh, or I believe that was him. I don't know. Maybe he's not done anything awesome and horrible. Um, Nope, nope. That was yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Stephen Miller.
yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm really like, huh? Okay, for those that don't know, Katie Miller is Vice President Pence's press secretary.
Hmm.
Quote from Donald Trump: "She's a wonderful young woman. Katie tested very good for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden, today she tested positive." Trump said during a meeting with Republican members of Congress at the White House.
Yes.
Does he freaking think happens?
No, never, has never, will never, does not part of it. But yeah, it's been wild.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm actually still trying to figure out. We may have been wrong. It may not have been Stephen Miller. It's hard to keep up in this presidency, is all I gotta say.
Well,
So yeah, we're I may be wrong on that one. I thought it was him, but I keep seeing Corey Lewandowski, and I don't know if that was just used as a joke, and got more traction than the original, or if I'm just wrong. So,
a senior administrative office told the press pool aboard Air Force Two that Pence's staffer, who did not name at the time, tested negative for corona on Thursday and positive on Friday morning. Katie Miller, who was not on the plane, had possibly been in contact with 6 people to fly on the trip, and they were removed before taking off, according to senior administration.
oh yeah.
So,
Well, but
so
here's
now
the
we
thing.
start the mapping.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Let's back up just a second. It sounded like originally when Trump's valet was found to have tested positive, that Trump and Pence were testing weekly and would start testing daily.
Mm-hmm.
Now it sounds like what, the entire White House staff?
Mm-hmm.
The entire White House staff is testing daily?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a second. We can't get Trump and Pence to wear, okay, I'm just going to say it, a fucking mask. And yes, unlike Jim Justice, I just said it. Cannot get them to wear a mask. But there is enough concern within the White House about this overblown, overhyped, hoax that they're testing daily.
Mm-hmm.
Really. The rest of the U.S. can't get a test. And that's how many people testing daily? Like, if like, how many people, not sit there and do the math, I'm going, how many people are testing daily related to this administration for this total hoax of a thing that's going on that's totally not real and we should reopen the economy? They're testing daily over something that is no worse than the flu. Do you want to just like run that through your, like, take all the time you need with it if you're still struggling with the whole concept? Take all the time you need with what I just said, because if I don't know many people who test daily for the flu. Ever. Did that even happen with H1N1? With any of the massive like SARS? Was Obama testing daily?
No.
I mean, granted, Obama was smart enough not to be stupid during that time, but you know. So help me out here. Well, like, that's my problem, is like, read the article, process what he's saying and what the administration is saying, and then go, but I thought we needed, that this was no big deal.
No. This is a very big deal. Anybody out there under that stupid assumption that it is not a big deal, I don't know. I can't help you.
Well, I'm just saying, with the administration that has tried to downplay this as much as they have, I think that's one of those, oops, we actually said the truth kind of moments in which, wait a minute, not only are you, like, Trump and Pence, I can understand their own stupidity is going to get them killed, so let's try to slow it down as much as we can. But, okay, world leaders got that. Testing daily, I can understand. But now we're into not like just immediate staff. It seems like there's a lot of staff testing daily. But I guess that's part of their national stockpile.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just where I'm at with that. Is just reading.
Okay, currently, the White House by itself, this does not include the secondary staff, meaning staff for Mike Pence's home, that type of thing. Just the executive house, 377 current employees.
Okay, so let's do those numbers, guys. So 377 people with one test a day, 7 days a week, and let's say we're already up to a week. So yeah, if you're following along at home.
Yep, let's back up the math a minute.
Okay.
Additional staff for Mike Pence is 100. He has a smaller detail.
Okay.
So that's 477.
Yeah. And just for a week, that's 1,077 tests. So 477 people times a test a day is, is that right? That doesn't seem right. My calculator, oops. I know better. Like, I'm sitting here saying that going, I know better. I can do math better than that in my head. 3,339 tests in a week. Yeah.
Yeah. When people can't even get tests. We have governors that have tests under freaking armed guard and undisclosed locations.
Well, not just tests, well, not really tests, but personal protective equipment under armed guard. I don't. Is anyone actually doing tests? Because I think those are
Governor Maryland clearly stated he went to South Korea, and well, he didn't do it. His staff went to South Korea in one of the football teams' jets and brought back tests, and he has them under armed guard.
Okay, because I thought that was just PPE. I thought that's what everyone was doing,
No, it's everything.
Basically, okay.
Because the federal government is going to take.
Yeah. But no, it's just me trying to process this and hear all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, okay, if you're talking about the president, the vice president, some key White House people daily. Okay, got that one. I can understand some of the staff that would have direct contact.
Mm-hmm. Now, what that does
every couple of days.
That doesn't include. Yeah. That doesn't include the CIA, the Secret Service, members of Congress, governors have visited the White House. Well, that doesn't include them.
Well, yeah. But no, with that, it's just, but again, this is the administration that has been sitting here telling everyone and encouraging people to protest and encouraging people to get back to work.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time that they're doing that and have well been told that in order to do that, we need to be able to do 3,000 tests a day.
Mm-hmm.
Or thousands of tests per day, soon to be millions of tests per day, throughout this country, is sitting there doing 3,000 and some tests per day. But yeah, and that's just to go to work and keep this country running. And I'm not saying I'm opposed. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
But to literally sit there and tell everyone else, go to work or die, and we're not going to work on getting you the tests that this country needs. We're just going to throw you to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
But do it in a way in which the messaging is that this is no big deal. It's no worse than the flu. It's okay.
Right.
I wish that Trump supporters would just process that. Just for a moment, take a moment and hear what he just said, what the administration has just said. Let it circulate. Take all the time you need. Let it circulate. Put it on a fire. Let it percolate a little bit. And see if it doesn't hit somewhere and go, oh. Anyway, that's me. That's where I'm at. I'm just getting frustrated.
Well, it's understandable that you're getting frustrated. There's a lot of us that's getting frustrated, aggravated, and about just damn stupidly fed up. I mean, it's to the point that CNN has created a fact-checking section of their website. Yeah. Let's check today's facts. The White House press secretary makes false claims at the first briefing. Trump makes a bunch of false claims after events about protecting seniors.
Surprise.
Corona facts versus fiction. Hilton CEO shutters Trump's testing conspiracy theories while sitting beside him.
Yeah.
Trump lies that he is being sacrificed when he talks about injecting, being sarcastic about being checked or injections. Trump dangerously suggests sunlight ingesting disinfectants. Trump wrongly declares some states do not have any problem with corona. Here's a news fact, people. It's in every dang state, including Alaska.
Well, right. And some are doing better than others. Some are it's not that it is a zero problem. It is a reasonable, manageable problem. As in, this is not New York level or New York City level coronavirus.
Right.
This is, like our county is at 32, I believe it was the last number I saw. Are we still there?
I don't know. I haven't seen the briefing yet.
So our county has done really well.
Right.
West Virginia as a whole has done pretty well, at least as far as the tests that we've done.
Yes.
And again, that can be some of the problem. Is that we're not at a point in which we can do even reasonable amounts of testing. We're not in a point in which we can do anything more than we're 99% sure this is what it is and the reason that we're having to put him on a ventilator, but let's find out.
Right.
That's the testing we're still doing.
Yeah.
Or at least most of it. West Virginia is also doing a lot of nursing home testing, and I do give credit for that. I really do. I seriously do. Nursing home, not only residents, but staff members.
Right.
And I am absolutely there with that. That is one of the nicest things that has come out of this. But at the same time, these are essential services. You can't just turn the lights off at a nursing home and send everyone home.
As you were talking, I pulled the report.
Oh, do we go up some more?
We're up to 33 positive cases in Fayette County alone. Today we lost another one. Which means that the deaths in West Virginia is now up to 52, and our positives are 1,323.
Okay, for the state, yes.
Yes, for the state.
Yeah. Okay. Dang, that is a lot.
Well, handy dandy calculator, because we keep doing the battle report every day almost.
Well, yes.
Oh.
But, I mean, again, that's a lot of people. That is a lot of deaths. But comparatively, what West Virginia has suffered as a total is what some areas are still looking at daily.
Right.
Or would aspire to looking at daily.
26 new victims today. And they only tested from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
It is a lot.
Yep.
Well, but now there is a lag.
I
assume there is still a lag.
There is a lag.
Yeah. Because the only way the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window would represent all of today, or as in the numbers for today, would be represented in that 10 to 2 window as if they were all rapid response tests.
Right, and they can't use those. If you get a positive rapid response test, then they turn around and have to run the long test. So technically, we probably won't get the results of today's for about another 3 days.
Yeah. Which has been a big problem in trying to explain with everyone or with the group of people trying to go after the hoax concept, is that you're going to see false positives and you're going to see false negatives. So there is going to be some confusion there.
Right.
As to what the real number is. Right now, we're basing it off the long test. We are assuming that it is supposed to be more effective, and that it is not generating a false negative.
Right.
Like you're getting the right answer the first time on the rapid, and then getting the wrong answer on the long form.
Right. Or what may be occurring, and from what I understand, the process is technically 3 different tests. Then you get the first rapid, then you get the long test, then they have to repeat the long test.
Okay.
And then all 3 should agree if everything is right.
Should.
Right. So if they're all tests Monday through Friday, which is what we've seen through the numbers, definitely on the weekends, we normally don't have new cases.
Well, now wait a second. I thought that the state was keeping the state lab open.
It's open, honey, but they're not releasing numbers. We're not seeing a big jump on Saturday and Sunday.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that there's no telling what all that represents.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know.
Mm-mm.
But it doesn't make any sense to me. We were supposed to be keeping the state lab open 24/7, so you would think they would be processing 24/7, and by default updating 24/7.
Right.
Unless they're introducing a secondary lag.
Well, I think that they're introducing a secondary lag. Of course, earlier this week, the CDC released new guidelines for reopening America. By the way, I'm firmly against it. However, the White House refused to release them to the public.
Great. Because we can't do anything?
Huh?
Because we can't do anything they're recommending?
Probably because it goes against the current doctrine of, just masks and gloves and we can reopen limited situations, let the diners start opening back up. We've got to save the economy.
Well, yes. But no, a large part of this has been centered around testing.
Mm-hmm.
Which we don't have the capacity to do. And it has been a back and forth argument of, okay, if you want to reopen, you've got to get to the testing points.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to do it. If you can't, if you've got to have people, near death, if you can only do the most essentials, as in like nursing home staff and frontline employees, then all these people you're turning loose, you're not going to have a clue what's coming at you.
Right.
Whether, okay, this is going well and your area is doing great until you start having the worst of the worst show up at the ER.
Right.
And then you're going to start getting uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay. If these are the worst of the worst, then that means we can mathematically extrapolate. There's a bigger segment of the population running around with this.
Right. And see, here's the problem. Although I will commit Jim justice for trying his best. He is focusing on communities. They've now moved to doing daycare testing, which a lot of our cases are coming from, which is scary. He is moving to focus on African American communities because they've been shown a larger percentile of positives
compared to their relative population density.
Right.
As in, if you're only X percent of a population, but you're showing, X plus 10%, then you are disproportionately affected.
Right. And he was one of the first governors to move to test nursing homes, which mitigates numbers.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of deaths, yes, absolutely does it ever.
Well, it mitigates the numbers because think about it. You have a population of 120 in a contained environment. And you get one positive test, that's 1 out of 120. Numbers look low.
Well, but then you have to turn around and realize that with this, that the ease of spread is that you have the inverse gamble.
Right.
And I don't mean to call any of this, like gambling, but it runs the opposite risk. Is if you even have one person in that enclosed environment of 120,
right,
then you suddenly upped your likelihood you're going to have many more because of the ease of spread. That even with, you know, doing everything right that you would do normally medically, there is a lot easier spread.
right.
And this is an especially vulnerable population.
Right.
Which we've seen play out. We have seen that occur. You know, within what was it? Well, I know we were talking Tuesday about the two businesses that reopened and managed to, within literally no time at all, because they were ignoring guidelines, because they were ignoring you know, social distancing, face masks, all of it. And having people who tested positive still report to work, that even in a healthy population, just doing nothing, effectively, ignoring everything, that quickly led to 68 new cases.
Right.
And that's just insane.
Right.
And hello, Alexandria. Sorry, it's hard to transition from angry statistics to hi.
The statistics are insane. And then we look at our unemployment rate of 14.7%. And the job reports, granted, the stock rally did rally 452 points, which is a big task.
Who cares? Are you retiring today? Who cares?
Yeah. I don't care. I don't.
The only people that care. Point. The only people that care about the stock market today are the people putting in for retirement today, ready to cash out their retirement plan. All their stocks and bonds and 401ks and IRAs are ready to push that money out. They care about those numbers. That's in the average level. The only other people who give a two fucks about those numbers are people looking to buy their 10th yacht.
Right.
Period. That's it. Those are the only people who care.
Right. But what I'm saying is...
Yes. Sorry. That's just a pet peeve of mine. It's like,
I know.
No one cares about the stock market unless you have a retirement plan and you're retiring today, or thought you were, or you're buying a second, third, 12th house, or a third yacht, or a 20th yacht, or a 15th vacation home, or a 4th Lamborghini. No one cares.
Right.
Everyone else is like, okay, well, whatever. What's the price of gas?
Right. But at the same time, this is what they keep touting and keep doubting about. This is the only way we can reopen the economy. No, this is not the only way you reopen the economy. This is not why you reopen the economy. You transform the economy. You follow the plan that was already designed. It was like, this is what I get. This is what I don't get about all this.
Okay.
This scenario was studied, was played out, was simulated, was took step by step by step by step. At least 8 years ago.
Okay. Well, yes. And what we ultimately found in that is that none of the money we spent on bailouts did a damn thing for general consumerism.
No,
and I know I'm using the F-bomb a lot tonight, but within that bailout, all we really did was fuck over a lot of homeowners.
Yeah.
While propping up the very banks who sold them garbage mortgages.
Right. What I'm talking about, however, is the plague scenario. Was at least designed 8 years ago when SARS came through.
Okay.
Okay. That is where the stimulus checks came in. That is where the what I'm going to call the eternal living check comes in. these aren't new thoughts, new ideas.
No, they're not. No, they're not. And the problem with this, the bigger the bigger encasing issue, is that for the most part, the average person has nothing to do with the economy reported on the nightly news, other than consumerism, as in the commerce, general commerce. Person A is selling a thing, you want the thing, you hand them money. That's it. That's it. That's your entire involvement in the economy. That's it. And that will eternally exist. And pretty much almost always has. There has, outside of hunter-gatherer, once we moved into any form of civilization, started building cities, started building, communities that we lived in, commerce became a part of this, at least at the form of barter. Then it turned into some form of representative currency. Gold, silver, jewels, something.
Sugar, salt.
Exactly. We have had some form of commerce throughout civilization.
Right.
That's not going to end overnight because a bunch of trust fund babies go broke. Or more importantly, go less rich than they were yesterday.
Right. Yeah, and this is that whole theory of trickle-down economy.
It can't, well, and Alexandria brings up a point, is however this will change our form of commerce.
Yes.
It could change what it looks like, and in terms of spending, because as you see economy issues start to creep through, it may change how consumers spend. And especially with the push to shop local, don't buy a millionaire another home, put a kid through, dance lessons, put braces on a 14-year-old, spend local. You do start to change the way people think about money, how they interact with money, which was already starting to occur. We kind of went through the spend crazy 80s and, the kind of semi-soft crash and bounce of the 90s, when everyone started taking on credit card debt, like absolute gangbusters. And then we've gotten into the, 2000 to 2010 span when everyone kept getting approved to spend more money than they could afford. Like, we weren't just taking stuff out on credit. We were taking stuff out on credit we would never be able to pay off. We knew it. We knew we were never going to be able to pay this off, at least in terms of the financial sector, as they're making the approval for the stupid loans. Which then turned into a housing bubble. We're not getting this lesson, is you cannot keep giving people credit to make up for the fact that they don't have the money to live. And that's ultimately what we're doing, is we're pushing this concept left, right, and center. Oh, do you think they will forgive student loans?
I don't. Credit, not with this current administration, Secretary of Education.
Yeah.
Reminds me of one of those league ladies who is part of the women's league, who's part of this league, who's part of that league, and thinks that everyone just makes too much of a big deal out of this.
Well, more importantly, Betsy DeVos can't do her goddamn job to start with.
Right.
They are having to literally sue her over the fact that there were students going to schools that were nothing but a scam, who got people to take out massive amounts of student loans.
Mm-hmm.
It has already been decided these students should be discharged from these loans. They are not only still collecting, still pushing to collect these loans, they're still actively garnishing for these loans, despite this already being a decided case.
Mm-hmm.
She will not do her job.
Right. Well, and then we have the whole student loan situation is so ridiculous.
Yes, but let me say this real quick. She may have never been a teacher, but she is damn sure a lesson in how not to be.
Yes. We have the Department of Education that cannot collect money.
Mm-hmm.
We have an antiquated system of people who are unable to process information.
Mm-hmm.
We have students that are in loans for jobs that will never occur.
Right.
Or what I call worthless degrees.
And side note, what I was just talking about was a large part of that.
Right.
There was one school in particular that was touting an 85% job placement rate, when their actual job placement rate was 0.
Right.
No one got a job. Literally, no one getting that degree from that institution got a job.
Right. And we have qualified teachers, educators, administrative offices, wonderful people running these colleges, running our schools, teaching our children that have more knowledge than her.
Yes.
Like,
who actually understand education.
Right.
And one of the biggest problems I have with education has become the for-profit education system.
Yes.
And the problems it is creating with the entire education system, and the way that it keeps kind of pushing this idea of valued skilled versus unskilled labor, translating into valuable versus worthless, which we've already found.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, we are pushing people into taking on educational loans to take on jobs that they don't particularly care for, to make the money to be able to afford to live.
Right.
That's never how this should work.
No.
I mean, there is nothing wrong at all with going and extending your education and reading and taking classes, and that is a beautiful, wonderful thing. What I wanted to do with my life required a college education. Really did. IT. And I'm glad for it. I went into information systems. A lot of that would not have necessarily opened a door to me, just through my own study. I would have originally my plan was computer science. I would have been a programmer, would have been burned out on this, and hopefully a millionaire by age 25 or 30 or 40, and would be ready to get out. Best case scenario. Instead, was in an environment when I realized, where I was able to realize that, yes, a large part of what I want to do is with computers, but my own mindset towards it pointed me towards a entirely different course of study, information systems and operations management, which is a way different place than just IT.
Right.
It's kind of a night and day. And I've long made the joke that the difference between comp sci and information systems is this: if you ask someone in comp sci what 2 times 2 is, they will give you the answer or hand you the tools to find it. If you ask IS what 2 plus 2 is, we call HR and point out that I don't know what you were thinking with this new hire, but they can't figure out what 2 plus 2 is.
Right.
So, you know, it's a different mindset. Is I'm not just focused on getting to the solution and perhaps spending thousands and millions of dollars to get there. I'm also looking at, okay, so what?
Okay, you frozen. You're dead.
Okay, it looks like we may be back.
I'm back. I never left.
Okay, well, I had spinning circles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't know what anyone heard of that, but yeah, I don't know.
Right. And it's like that I think certain professions, after you've been in a position for 10 years, you have your loans forgiven. Teachers, nurses.
Specifically, yeah.
Sorry. Those 2 positions, loans should be forgiven.
Well, and then we also have a large issue there. Is the cost of education. And this has been a long-term problem. You know, especially when we sit here and we listen to people who are like, you know, I worked my way through college and, you know, I didn't have any student loans. These lazy kids these days. Okay, but here's the problem. Backing up 20 years, in order for me to have paid off and not had any loans during my college education and been able to support myself, I would have had to have already been making what I was making when I got out of college.
Right.
And that would be, you know, and at the time been living in a dorm and eating off a college meal plan. There's a problem there. That was, I was hired out of college at $30,000+ a year.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
And that's an even bigger problem. Teachers having to continue taking and being in courses until they retire. Now, ECUs, I get. ECUs is continuing education. You have to take so many a year to maintain your certification, and those should be paid for by the boards.
Continuing education units.
Yes.
CEU. You have problems with acronyms. I got to fix it.
I know you do. But anyhow, that's ridiculous. If you're teaching kindergarten at 23, and you're teaching kindergarten at 64, I'm quite sure it didn't change.
But it does. No, like there's legitimacy. I see legitimacy to continuing education. I really do. And I can definitely illustrate that with just my own education. I went through a school system that had a mixture of fresh out, newly minted, just became a teacher, and people who had been there and they were set to retire. They are sunsetting. This is their last school. This may be their last year to 3 to 5 years. This is the end of their career. And the difference in those teachers and all the ones in between was dramatic. Some of the brand new teachers, they had new methods. They didn't necessarily have classroom control, but they had newer methods and in some ways were a lot easier to work with. You had some older teachers that had locked in. They got that degree in 1950. in a strict, you will sit upright and you will, memorize, and you will not, actually understand the material, but you'll be able to regurgitate it. You'll just be able to spit it back out at me just the way I told it to you, without ever thinking about it, without, engaging with it, without getting it. That makes a big difference. And in many ways, and granted, that had a lot to do with the educator, not like realizing there's new stuff coming out in my field all the time. And hence the reason for continuing education is that, no, there's new stuff coming out. There are new ideas and approaches. Not necessarily that you have to implement all of them, but here's your exposure to them. What happens when you get the kid that you just can't get through to? Maybe it's nice to have a tool bag that is more modern than the toaster. That maybe the microwave will work. Like have something else to throw at this kid to be like, okay, let's try this. Okay.
And, and then, things do change and still do today. But my point is it's her district. We have such a piecemeal educational system that it's ridiculous. There are schools in this country that still have textbooks from Texas. Why Texas gets to decide whose textbooks gets bought and what the textbook gets to say is beyond me. That still,
it actually has a lot to do with publishing, and a lot to do with the size of their educational system. They buy enough books at once, they get to make some choices.
Yeah, including the man will land on the moon one day.
Yep. It was. And no, we should not have to be making choices at the educational level of the county district level to take things away from teachers just to balance the budget. Because if we look at teachers, they're not being paid enough. They've never been paid enough.
No.
Not in many decades. There was a point, it was almost somewhat manageable, and financially sound to be a teacher. But when you look at all the educational costs, the continuing and naturally the continuing education, the reduction in benefits, the stagnant wages, and the fact that we now have teachers working multiple jobs just to make ends meet.
No.
Wait a second. We just sat here and said, no, go get an education and you'll be able to support yourself. Because that's worthwhile. That's worth money. Intelligence is worth money, but not what we're doing.
Right.
It's like, figure it out. Like somehow in here, it just, there's a lot of not thinking.
Right.
And
not only that, but I don't know. There are some degrees out there that I have to really question. A degree, and I pick at you at this, but a full independent degree to Russian lit.
True. Now, there are a lot of in some ways, degree programs that may not necessarily have like an obvious value. Exactly. But in many ways, that's because we have devalued education over time. We have entered into this war of the supposed ivory tower university elite and the common worker,
Right.
which shouldn't occur. Within and of itself, now, you may not solve all the world's problems with a degree in Russian literature.
Right.
However, within that Russian literature degree, you're going to learn a lot, and I will guarantee you that, about how civilizations work,
Mm-hmm.
about how societies work, about how governments work.
All right. And it makes a wonderful minor.
Additionally, it does make a wonderful minor, if accidental. I did all my electives in Russian Lit because I liked it.
Yeah. But, Andrew has a doctoral level degree. I have a master's level degree. You freaking went to college for, IT. And it's like, really, all these are practical jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have this one student that goes to school for 20 years because he's a professional student.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to become a professional teacher or nurse or cook or road paver. And we need to stop devaluing those trade schools that teach real jobs, those people that learn bootstrap.
Well, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that in doing that, we throw away the non-trade school level employment or education.
Mm-hmm.
It does not directly kick you out a door and go, okay, you've apprenticed in IT, we're going straight over here. That's not how we want our education system to go either, because that is a very single-minded focus. And in doing that, you lose a lot of understanding. Yes, I could have gone and picked up, an ITT, computer science, associates. And with a lot of reading and with a lot of certification tasks, I could look like a great and wonderful IT person, whether you're hiring me independently or you're hiring me to work for your company. What I would be missing is multifold. One, through my electives, and it wasn't all Russian Lit, through my electives and through my other courses that were not directly related to IT, I picked up a lot of soft skills and a lot of understanding of the world around me and how it worked. In addition, within my program of study, and still not directly related to IT, I went through economics, finance, marketing, accounting. All of these are very important aspects of businesses and a large part of what separates computer science and IT. I didn't spend as much time learning programming languages, although I did learn a few. But I spent a lot of time understanding how businesses work and how the different areas of businesses have to work together. That while I could have been the best and brightest computer science employee and I could program you under a table, and anyone else who wanted to come along, would I have understood, which I wanted to, didn't understand that at the time until it took me a little bit to get there and have it pointed out to me, is that that's not just where my brain was, and that wasn't necessarily the best way to use my abilities. That being able to sit down with a situation and talk to someone and understand what their problems are and what the challenges are that they face and what the issues they're trying to work towards while also understanding, the financial position of a company, how all these departments have to work together, and how to run a project and get all these departments to, come on board with it and understand and talk to them individually about, hey, this isn't just about going and helping this department or just doing this thing, or this isn't just Big Brother. This is what's going on, and this is how it influences you, and this is how it can help you. And what else are you having issues with? And being able to take all that back and figure out how to get this company to work better.
No.
Not just how to program an application to do a thing.
Well, but the other page of that sentence,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm using you because you're here.
I know.
How often in the boardroom or the data center or your office have you found jazz appreciation that you paid over $3,000 for useful?
It may have not been the most useful thing in my career yet. But as an individual, let me tell you, I do actually, as with all the problems I had with that professor, one, I actually did like the material.
Uh-huh.
The content of the class was wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And it did further my appreciation of music. Not just jazz, but all music.
Uh-huh.
And on a human level, probably has done a lot for me. I would say there were other classes that I could point out and set and go, yeah, that one was kind of a waste.
Uh-huh.
Like university studies, where we learned about where the library was and how to use one. I paid for that one too.
Uh-huh.
There were some, and with every education, there's going to be some classes that not everyone needs.
Right.
And then there's stuff that at the time, looking at it, now I don't know why in the world that was important.
Right.
But as Alexandria is pointing out, is it does click later.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, I would say that without the jazz appreciation, there's a fair amount of my life that would have been far more stressed than it was. I like listening to music. I like having an understanding of what I'm listening to and its influences, and being able to kind of mentally navigate to, what do I need to hear right now?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to inspire me? What do I need to relax me? What do I need for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I would call it the most selfish course I took in college.
Well, yeah,
It
but
was the most indulgent course I took in those 4 years.
I know. But what I'm saying is if you wanted to take it, great.
Mm-hmm.
But you should not have to study crap, and I do mean crap,
Okay.
in your degree that you will never use, that you will not need to do it. Like, I do not know a teacher, unless she's a math teacher, that needs to take calculus.
I don't know. I still argue there's at least having
no reason for a nurse to have to go and take political science.
Really?
Really. That was
Really?
the most stupidest class ever.
Hold on. Hold the phone back up. Slam the brakes. You mean to tell me that sitting in the middle of a global pandemic and all the political shit going on, you can't understand how a nurse on the front lines having to deal with patients that are down a rabbit hole of political conspiracy bullshit, to understand how all this is playing out at a political level and all the little moving parts going on right there is beneficial? Like, really?
Beneficial. It still isn't beneficial to understand the electoral college or beneficial of why it is an electoral college to balance. You don't need it. You don't need it on the floor.
No, you don't need it on the floor, but you need it as a human. And on a day-to-day basis, no, you may not need that on the floor. And if you're working a nursing home, maybe you won't need that ever. But right now, in an ER, and all the stupid that is walking through the front door of people who will not wear masks, our president and vice president, all the people who are drinking Clorox, all the people, like, knowing that this is part of that bigger sphere of politics and how politics work. No, I have to disagree with that one. And moreover, I think that is something that everyone has to understand. That we would be a better society if everyone took a little poli-sci.
They don't need poli-sci, business writing. No, we need chart writing. Some of the notes that I've seen on our medical records, I'm like, who the hell taught you how to write? And don't write charts anymore. At all.
Okay, so
you're pre-programmed.
Hold on. Let's go back to that business writing. You don't think that would be valuable to a nurse?
How to write a marketing letter is not valuable to a nurse.
Not to every nurse. It is a large part of how you learn to communicate with businesses, though. And like, if you're a nurse in a rural hospital and you're needing supplies, you're going to have to do some business writing. You're going to have to do some fundraising seeking. That business writing would pay off.
We'll disagree on both.
Okay. Sorry, I can see bits of it, like, and that was the general theory of a liberal arts education. It is a taste of the world. It is some basic skills that are higher than your high school education, that are meant to prepare you for success regardless of where you go. You may not use it every day. You may only use it once in your life. You may never use it. Or you, more importantly, may not actively understand that you're using that's there. You're pulling on that some of this stuff and the way that it works is influencing the thoughts and ideas that you're having and the way that you're interacting with the world. That's where I'm at with it.
But when you have a student...
Hi. Read Alexandria. Just read it aloud. Read it aloud. Quote her.
Having exposure on writing in general is essential. Essential, yes. Sitting there for a semester, having to write papers and documents and create marketing crap. Nurses never use this. It would be like having teachers take lab, as in lab results, to get their degree.
If they go into science.
Really? A teacher needs to be able to interpret a CDI level or an iron level of a student?
Well, but ultimately what I'm getting
to it.
To me, my general theory is there's no wasted education. May not use it every day, or more importantly, you may not realize how you're using it. But the education that we receive, any of it, all of it, will always influence us in different ways. Now, if you have a bad math teacher or you're struggling with math and the way it's being taught, that can influence you and does influence kids throughout their lives. We have a nation full of people that will freely tell you, oh, I'm bad at math. How are you bad at math? It's a basic life skill. It's like being bad at breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, unless there's a condition there and you're seeking treatment for it, being bad at breathing is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Real big problem. Going to be a big problem throughout your life. But at the same time, you have tons of people that because they struggled to learn math and they struggled to learn the concepts and they struggled to understand how numbers work or, their relationships with each other, they just assumed they were bad at math. All those C's, D's, and F's told them, you suck at math. So they don't bother with math. They try not to do math. They don't think too much about math. And it often leads to people overspending, not being able to keep a budget, having anxiety about their finances, not paying attention to the rates and terms and conditions on mortgages, car loans, credit cards, none of it. They're not processing all the information they're getting because that requires some math. And I'm bad at math, so I'm not going to do math. So what do you do at that point? You either suffer the consequences of not understanding how much this loan versus this loan is going to cost you, or you have to pay someone to tell you what you could have sat there with a pen and paper and done yourself. If a teacher taking continuing education had picked up new skills, had learned there was a different way to engage students who were struggling with math and math concepts and number relationships, and fix this problem back in the primary and secondary education market, in that segment of education. That's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm at if we need to reduce the cost of education, which we freaking do,
Mm-hmm.
enable students to go in and get their degree, take classes that are core to their degree,
Mm-hmm.
and get rid of half the crap that doesn't matter.
I still say half that crap does very much matter. It very much matters. It very much matters. Because in many ways, when you do this, no crap approach to getting an education, all you're doing is training an employee. That's it. That's all that person's going to ever be able to do. They are not going to have the skills to go, hey, wait a minute. I can open my own business. I can be an independent contractor. I can have choices and opportunities instead of sitting in a cube. And I mean that in terms of a non trade school. But if you're talking about like IT, that programmer is most likely going to get stuck in a cube. Just write code. That's all you can do. You can't open your own business. You can't branch out on your own unless you stop everything you're doing and go get a degree in accounting, basic business accounting, go get a degree in sales and marketing, go get a degree in this, that, and everything else, versus an education that will say, okay, you want to do this, that's great. Here's some other skills you may need, at least enough to understand and engage with those people. That's where I'm at with it.
We have different views on this one.
I know. But yes, and I do love that Alexandria, I will mention this, in her biology class has linked life skills such as iron, CBCS, etc., to the link the curriculum to what the kids will see in their life. That's the education we need.
Yeah,
That's the kind of
that's being provided.
Not always. Not always. But it is, and a lot of that has to do, or at one point, especially for us, had to do with teachers that were stuck in a different era who learned to teach math, or that were single subject minded. And once they got their degree, they just kind of didn't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
They became a math teacher. They were a math teacher for 30 some years. They had no clue or understanding about the rest of the curriculum around them. All they could do was teach math. And if you can't get it, then oh well. I learned how to teach it this way in 1956, so I guess that's your problem.
Yeah, but an example is a lot of the universities still teach shorthand.
Not necessarily a bad skill. It isn't.
And in today's modern world, shorthand isn't used at all.
No, not generally. But there's a side link to understand there. Because we have the same commentary on why they stopped teaching cursive in the classroom.
That's different.
No, it isn't. It's the same
thing. A document in the United States that is written in shorthand.
But it does change the way you think about language and writing. It will change the way you see language and writing.
Hi, Sharon.
All right, I guess we're calling her Sharon, so I'll go with it. Court reporters do.
But again,
good catch. Thank you.
On the nursing floor.
I'm liking this 2-on-1. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
We're going to take him down. And it is individualized to the person, so it is creative.
Well, it is creative.
Mm-hmm.
I use it in my planner. I never use it on a medical chart.
Mm-hmm.
And charting now is done by computer.
Well, and I go the other way, is even making notes for myself on computer. Some of the shorthand that we had in a previous job still clicks in my head. And I still type it. And I've, in our relationship, have to explain it to you. Because I've started to write you a note, or I've sent you a message, and you're sitting here going, what in the world does that mean? Like, here's my phone. What? What did you try to tell me? Because I picked this up, and it was a quick, easy way in my brain to write something or to type something that was common and repetitive, and in our system we did all day long.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been typed out was a massive time waster. But in a shorthand version, in an abbreviated version, and the biggest one I use is LMTC, left message to call.
Mm-hmm.
I write LMTC all the time. Every time I leave someone a message and I've notated that I've left them a message, I have whole documents where I've gone through and had to fight with something that are covered with a date, time, and LMTC.
Right.
Ooh. Oh, no. What?
Agreed.
Oh. What?
Uh-huh.
Okay, hold on. I got to read it. I'm just going to read it out loud. My legal studies teacher was like, shorthand is stupid since we have recording devices and dictation programs, so I'm not teaching you. If you don't teach someone to read your style, it is useless. I'm not necessarily sure that's true. While it is individualized to the person, I would think after a while of trying to process someone's shorthand, you would start to understand it, much like hieroglyphics or any of the other world's dead languages that you're going to pick up. I mean, because we even see that in cursive. You know, there are certain letters I don't make like anyone else in the world, but if you sit there with enough of what I've written, it's going to make sense real quick. Mm-hmm. We are pattern recognition human beings.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's all individualized. So if you're transferring from one nurse to another nurse, mm-hmm. the shorthand for medical documentation was totally different. That's why it's no longer used. It caused many problems. It is useless. When you get on the floor, it is useless.
Can understand that, but how many nurses are doing at least glove charting until they can get to data entry? Moreover, how many nurses, if they go through a system that only teaches them computerized medical records, are completely dead in the water if that computer system is down?
That's why there's
now, recently or a couple of years ago, that was a legitimate issue at Princeton Community Hospital in Princeton, West Virginia. Uh-huh. Their entire computer system was hosed with ransomware. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just a couple of days till they could get all this worked out and, okay, everything's a little wonky. They spent months fixing this issue, and for those months, all of those nurses, every single record in that hospital had to go back to paper.
All right.
How many of those nurses struggled to get through this if they didn't know shorthand, if they couldn't at least create their own records in shorthand and do the data entry later?
Probably none of them, because none of them use shorthand. It's not an official charting language.
But if you're sitting there having to suddenly take on an entire functional hospital, I think you're going to figure out some shorthand real quick. Real quick.
Not if you want to keep your license, because that can cause a lot of medical errors. Because my BID may be, your POTD.
Okay.
That's why it's not used. It's not used. Shorthand is used for you.
Okay.
That was the whole problem. That's why it's another one of those classes. It's like, why am I here?
But if you could at least do shorthand on your glove, because there are nurses that will do glove shorthand.
Yeah, puncturing the glove.
Well, true.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff that gets written for you on your glove. Mm-hmm. It's not going to record. You don't need a semester of figuring it out.
Okay.
Okay. It's like someone teaching you Cobalt.
Nuh-uh. Do you understand right now that half the problem with our U.S. system of unemployment and getting registered for unemployment and all the problems that people are facing with getting money have everything to do with COBOL? That many of these systems are in written in what's considered a dead language, a dead mainframe language, that states are still, it's a legacy system that they cannot afford to get rid of. I.e., the money has not been diverted to this program to upgrade their systems in so many decades that they have entire benefit programs still running on COBOL.
Mm-hmm.
What is considered a dead computer language.
Yes. And it's more so an ICQ issue.
Okay.
Their database management is terrible.
Well, databases are a product of their time. I will say that. And some of them are the best that minds had to offer.
In 1970.
And before. So, yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Right.
No, it's not an efficient programming language. It is not an intelligent and obvious and flexible and versatile, but it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
And there are entire segments of our country, of our world, still running on it.
Mm-hmm. And people are still gravity feeding IVs. But the same point, though, is one, where's my damn tax dollars going for those upgrades?
Well, that's part of the, much like you're talking about, don't go through, education taking crap. The politics of the situation is such that we have elected a lot of people who say, why should our tax dollars go for crap? We shouldn't be funding money for entitlement programs to upgrade their computer systems. We shouldn't be funding money for these very vital safety net programs to work more efficiently, to have computer systems that can handle, or at least begin to handle, a massive surge in unemployment that will allow for agility in changing the program rules. Like we talk about the delay in independent contractors and self-employed individuals being able to file for unemployment. COBOL, that's the problem. These systems were not programmed for independent contractors when they were developed. Money has not been spent adding on a flick switch to be like, okay, in case we ever have this weird scenario happen, and finding people and pulling them in to come in and fix this so that they can apply, so that independent contractors and self-employed people can apply, is a very difficult task, because it's a dead language. People aren't putting it on their resumes anymore. Like, I know COBOL. No, it's a dead language. People are putting things that are currently relevant. So you can't even go on LinkedIn and be like, just show me all the people with COBOL. IBM had to make an appeal to all of their registered members that please, if you know COBOL at all, contact us. And we're amazed to get 1,300 responses.
And out of those, probably 300 had a degree.
And a lot of them were retired.
And a
lot of them were headed towards retirement. A lot of them were older. And that's a serious concern. You still have a dead language running on systems that are vital to us as a nation. Our unemployment system, pretty friggin' vital right now. And you're having to hope that you can find someone who isn't dead, who's paying attention, who is at least skilled enough to understand what someone else wrote, because you want to talk about unique, like shorthand. People's programming is unique. It is a fingerprint. It is There are ways of doing things, and then there are ways that systems get programmed. And you better hope like hell and be grateful for the fact that COBOL is a language old enough, people commented it. That there are resource materials with this. That a programmer was instructed in their education at that time that if you had to do something weird, you document the shit out of it. So that if someone else has to come through and figure out what you were thinking to fix something that no longer works or that may have never worked correctly to begin with, that they can begin to get into your head and go, okay, what was the goal? What is this connected to? How does this work? What are the parts and components? And why is it this way? Because in programming, some things, even then and now, it worked at the time. It did what we needed it to at the time, so we called it good. What you run into now with agile development are programmers who just code. No comments. If someone's got to go back on this in 6 months, 6 years, 5 decades, good luck. Good luck ever figuring out why it was programmed that way. Those are some of the systems that these COBOL systems are being replaced with. And it's the same cut the crap and just do your job mindset.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the other side of it is that our infrastructure is in retirement. Nothing is updating it.
No.
And why we're using the IRS or the unemployment system to segment and send out checks is ridiculous.
Because there are largest national programs that even can begin to have a clue.
Wrong. There's one other.
Oh?
Would have been a better solution.
Okay.
Social Security Administration.
Okay.
Their data systems are more up to date. They have the ability to print checks instantly. They have the ability to make direct deposits instantly. They are more structured in America to have handled this. It was sent to the IRS, however, because the IRS, in general, is more tied into being able to process other things for the government.
Okay.
If you're sending out $1,200 to every American in this country, which was the touted goal of the stimulus package, well, gee, that's not hard to do. Every American has a Social Security number, an INN number, or an SSN number.
Okay.
They already have a check printing and Arch system. They didn't have to install one. It just slowed the process.
Well, and I have a lot of issues with the response that the stimulus has had. And setting those aside, still, it's one, yes, Social Security could have been a better system. IRS is still a large amount of national data. Like that, we do not, as a nation, have a lot of large scale data on modern, fully efficient, highly intelligent systems. We don't. We do not. It is because each state is on their own for unemployment. There, as I understand it, there is no national unemployment system. These are all individual state systems that may or may not have seen money in decades. That are that could more than likely be duct tape, spit, a prayer, and eBay from completely falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen, and I've worked for a company, may I point out, in which we had to go to eBay for one of our systems just to buy memory because it's no longer manufactured. We were having, for a server that ran our company, having to buy memory, used memory off of eBay and hope that it was functional, going to last more than 5 seconds, and would get that server back up and running.
Mm-hmm.
Or more importantly, get it out of the limping phase that it was in because we lost a memory stick.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily uncommon. And it was one of the things that in my IT, in my information systems, thankfully was told to me by a professor who was very cynical, who said, at the very beginning of my degree program is I can tell you all kinds of things, great and wonderful new inventions. And I'm going to tell you right now, nothing I will ever tell you in this classroom will prepare you for the world you are going to enter when you start working.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get there, it's not all going to be new. It's not all going to be modern. It's not even going to make sense. It's not going to work the way it's printed in a textbook that it should work. None of this is going to be, most likely, none of this is going to be all new equipment, all functioning perfectly together in a happy, little ecosystem. It is going to be a lot of legacy systems, a lot of antiquated hardware, a lot of bad code, a lot of in-house politics within that company, a lot of trying to meet budgets, and a whole lot of being judged for some of the most ridiculous things you will ever imagine. How you sign your email, how you turn in a report, what your report looks like, how it is formatted, and literally losing a job over something that in the grand scheme of the universe makes no sense. She said, and that's what I'm going to try to prepare you for.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Maury Lockley if she ever sees this. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I've held on to that throughout my post-college life.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it very much true, is that every single bit of that applied.
No. All right, guys, we've reached our hour and a half. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I also have another video that will be coming out tomorrow.
Actually, will we? You have an appointment that's going to run late on Tuesday. I don't think we're going to be able to do a psychic coffee shop.
Okay, we'll be late.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right. You guys have a great week. Stay safe. Wash your damn hands. Put on your face mask and stay the heck away from everybody else.
Absolutely.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.